What's going on, fight fans? It's Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Rob Jarrell, and this is the second initial reaction that we have going on discussing last night's fights. This is the top-ranked pay-per-view and a couple of the European fights that's going on that have some implications. Just to start off with the European fights, we had Arthur Abraham decisioning Robert Krasniqi or Krasnick, whatever one it is. He beat Krasnick. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he beat him over 12 rounds. It was a WBO super middleweight eliminator. This is to set up a rematch with Gilberto Ramirez, who beat Abraham to take that WBO title, and now he has another crack to get that title back. So just keep an eye on that. Hopefully they make that fight within the next few months. It is a mandatory, I believe, at this time, and I think they're looking at making Gilberto Ramirez versus Gennady Golovkin if he is serious about moving up to 168. Also last night, an Avalos Kurtzidze out of Georgia beat down a Tommy Langford. So this was interesting because Kurtzidze had been waiting for a while. He hadn't been getting any fights. He wanted to fight someone for a middleweight title. He had been waiting his turn, especially after that knockout of Antoine Douglas. And he had been patient, so he took on a young, undefeated, much taller Tommy Langford, who had a good record, a glossy record, but not really a good resume. And he had been talking about how he had been ready for the top 10 at middleweight. Not if you're not getting past Kurtzidze. And Kurtzidze is only 5'4". There are lightweights taller than this guy. And he looks like the literal personification of a fist. And that's how it hits you, because he's talking, he makes himself a very small target, but he's relentless and he keeps going. And because he's basically a ball, he has a pretty nice guard, it's really hard to hit him clean. If you do hit him clean, you better hit him clean, because if not, he's just going to keep coming. He is not easily deterred at all. So congratulations to Kurtzidze. Hopefully this was an eliminator for Billy Joe Saunders' WBO title. Yes, the WBO title that Billy Joe Saunders has, and he hasn't been able to make an important fight. His last fight, he didn't look that great against, and he's just constantly, oh, I'm gonna fight this dude. Oh, I'm talking crap about Triple G, blah, blah, blah. Well, that fight's not getting made. He's being overlooked, and he's not trying to make a fight with anyone else. So he's either going to be forced to fight garbage competition, he's going to have to fight a very tough Kurtzidze, or if I'm at PBC, I'm trying to make that fight with the Magic Man, Danny Jacobs next. Miracle Man, I'm sorry. If I'm him. Like, if I'm Premier Boss, I would have beaten Kurtzidze's team to the punch a long time ago just to get back into that pitch and get a belt in his hands. But that's me. And I'm really rooting for Kurtzidze because he deserves it. He's 32, 2-2, and he's been a pro since about 2000, I believe. It's been a while. And he deserves his title shot. Win, lose, or draw, he deserves it. He needs to fight for it. He needs to be able to fight for money. And he's proved it by beating two undefeated young lions in a row to earn a title shot, which he deserves. So give that man a title shot. Georgians, please tell them, give that man a title shot. So that's it for the European cards. As of right now. There were a few young British stars, British fighters that made either their debuts or really showed out, and I think they won by a hellacious knockout. But that's neither here nor there. On to the top rank card. We had the introduction of Shakur Stevenson, which he handily beat his opponent, even when the opponent tried to headbutt the southpaw Stevenson, the Olympic silver medalist, and he was able to wear through that. I think he's going to be great. Something tells me, unless he shows some serious flaws, they're going to move him fairly quickly. He'll probably fight 4 more times this year. I think they're just trying to set up a fight for him next month and then 2 months later. So they're trying to make it so he's about 5-0, maybe 6-0 by the end of the year. Then 2019 fighting for a regional title, possibly. It depends on what kind of what kind of maturity he shows and what kind of toughness he shows. Top Rank has some of the best matchmakers, and they're probably one of the best at developing young talent. Speaking of that, we saw a Jessie Magdaleno really show how to knock out a Dilson a, a Dilson Dos Santos, I believe that's his name, in 2 rounds, and he just overwhelmed him. His accuracy, his speed, and power just overwhelmed this guy Dos Santos. So I'm looking forward to seeing who he fights next. After that, we saw Gilberto Ramirez take a 12-round decision over Max Bursek out of the Ukraine. And we said this was going to look a lot like the Abraham fight, but he was going to be able to get on the inside more. And Gilberto Ramirez was made to work in this fight. Granted, he did win, but he was really apt, and he really showed some very good boxing skills, being able to constantly be on the move, landing some hard, accurate shots. But for a guy like Bursak, he just kept moving forward. We said he would come in, get in, and be more active than Abraham with better footwork. I personally just don't think he had the power to, or the foot speed to get to a Gilberto Ramirez. And that's hard because Ramirez is like 6'2" Mexican fighter who knows how to box. And he really showed it. So he will probably fight Arthur Abraham, who is, if I'm not mistaken, his mandatory. I don't think he's going to get a Gennady Golovkin fight this year because they're going to wait out for Canelo to see if he wins or loses versus Chavez Jr. I wouldn't mind seeing him versus the Chavez Jr. That would be an interesting fight because they're both tall, they're both big, and they're both at super middleweight now. Gilberto Ramirez is, and it depends on how Chavez Jr. looks in the fight with Canelo. Because if he looks better, I think that would be a good fight for the both of them as name-wise because they present two different problems that the two of them really don't deal with. But I'm interested to see who he fights next and who Top Rank puts him in because I'm not sure who else they have at 168 or what other promoters who they have at 168. But keep an eye out for him. I can see him versus, I believe it's Jose Benavidez, but he might be a light heavyweight. It'd be interesting. I'm excited about the kid. I think he's shown improvement. I think he grew up a little bit in this fight, being able to weather the storm of Max Bursek, who I believe was fresher and more game to fight. He just didn't have the skills to beat a Gilberto Ramirez. In the main event was Oscar Valdez, who we told everyone was going to be in tough versus Miguel Mariaga. He passed the test. The judges' scorecards sucked. That fight was not as wide as they made it to be. Granted, I thought Oscar Valdez was able to go to his box, and in the last round or two, I think, in the last round, I thought he was way more accurate and active than Mariaga to pull up the fight out. But Mariaga was game. He knocked him down in the 10th round. And Miguel Mariaga, I think Oscar Valdez might have punched himself out a little bit in that round because Mariaga was able to come back and land some serious leather. I think Oscar Valdez was slightly hurt in that round toward the end in that last 45 seconds because Mariaga showed not only great chin but great recovery time in taking it to Oscar Valdez. But the good thing I liked about Valdez is he was able to use his jab and not put so much on his punches, knowing that a guy like Mariaga can weather the storm, has great conditioning, is relentless. And now at 126, Oscar Valdez is probably going to get a fight versus the champ. I can see him in there versus Gary Russell Jr. There's Lee Selby, and there is Leo Santa Cruz, and all of those guys are the other champions. Not to mention that you still have what's my man, the Jackal, that Leo Santa Cruz just fought. But that would be an awesome fight for if he fought Valdez. I'm mad that I can't think of his name at the moment. Give me a second. I gotta work my way backwards and see who is it that. And my computer wants to screw up. Awesome sauce. But no, that fight versus that would be an entertaining fight if he was able to fight Frampton. or even Abnormares of 126. It's a lot of fights in 126. 126 is definitely extremely deep. That you can make a great fight. Who else is at 126? I always type. You got Jesus Cuellar. Like I said, Lee Selby, Scott Quigg. You got Burchell Vetyeka. Yeah, I believe is Burchell at no, Burchell is not at that weight. I thought he was, but maybe he's not. But Joseph Diaz, there are names there, and I would love to see him fight one of those names. It only makes sense. So that's all I got for you today, guys. Tell me what you think. It's a little bit muted today. I just finished working out, so I am extremely tired. But we should be bringing you the full recap, few days. And until then, fight on.